Day one, you need to set up your entity and you need to protect your brand name, because I'm telling you what happens. People start going into business, they're sole proprietors, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, I just got this tax bill. Oh my God, someone just made a claim against me. Oh my God, someone's saying I can't use the name. And then they go look for a lawyer. At that point, it's too late. Now you're deep into it. Now you're not getting out of it. Now you're paying a lawyer probably all the money you're making. You're giving to the lawyer on this hand to defend you, because now it's you personally that you're defending.
Welcome to another episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. I'm Dave Polykoff, your personal brand consultant, helping you launch, grow, and monetize your personal brand. To learn more, go to davepolykoff.com on how we can work together on a one-on-one basis. Again, that's davepolykoff.com. On today's episode, we have Robert Sciglimpaglia. Apologies for the strumble there, but correct me when I'm wrong here. Who is a lawyer, a business lawyer, helping those that are trying to grow their personal business and help them through some of the legalities that come with business and interacting with clients and such, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today. So, Robert, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good job on my name, by the way.
Was I close enough? I know
that was perfect. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? My last name's Polykoff, and people even struggle with that. I always like when I go to close out a tab at a bar and you have to kind of like say your last name, they're like, what are you saying? So sometimes I just wish my last name was Smith and it would be easier, you know?
Yep. I know what you mean.
So yeah, today our audience, people building their personal brands, which are solopreneurs. So these are people that are coaches, consultants. They have their own Me LLC, if you will. And a lot of times when we talk about personal branding, we think of like visual identity and messaging and the offers that you have. But there's a whole business side of things, the legal side of things that needs to deeply be considered.
Correct.
So I want to dive into that today. But first, let's get to know you a little bit more. Give us an idea of like who you are, what you do, and who you do it for.
Sure. Yeah. As you mentioned, I'm an attorney, so that's my main occupation. I'm also an actor, voiceover artist, and a producer, film producer, TV producer. And so I've been practicing for 33 years. So I represent all kinds of artists, ranging from musicians to podcasters, and a lot of small businesses. So I help set up LLCs, corporations. All the things we're going to talk about today is what I do. A big part of my business is what I do. Setting those things up, doing trademarking, doing copywriting. I also am a workers' compensation specialist. So I deal with injured workers. I deal with comp claims against companies. And like right now I'm doing an insurance audit for workers' comp. So, I'm pretty familiar with the business side of how things work. And, it's pretty much standard for any type of business that you're starting. It doesn't matter if you're a one-person business or, a huge corporation. The legal side and the business side is the legal side, business side. So you need to, it's obviously different. There's different impact depending on the size of your business, but it's still the same issues. So
let's start there. So what's typically the main reason like a solopreneur, coach, consultant would come to you? It's usually like the reason people are thinking in their head, oh, I need to connect with a lawyer.
There's many reasons why. The first reason is they want to know how to set up. They just want to know about business. Like, if I start to collect money, what do I need to do? Can I just start taking money from people, or is that okay? I explain the differences between what a sole proprietor is versus setting up an LLC versus a corporation, and so I would ask them if they have any assets, or if it's a side hustle. And if it is, I would tell them to set up an LLC right away, because the LLC is your legal protection, so that if, when you're working your job, if you do something and someone sues you for your side profession, they're not going to go, they can't go attach your pay, right? If you're a sole proprietor, they can go after any assets that you have. So it's definitely a little give and take from when someone comes to me and I'll ask them what they need. But other times people will come in with a cease and desist. Hey, look, I've been using this name And I got this letter from this company. Sometimes they're big companies, sometimes they're little companies, and they say they have a trademark. Do I have to stop using my name? So I can research that issue for them. So that's sometimes when people come in, or as I just mentioned, companies they have employees maybe, and they get audited by their insurance company, and the insurance company at the end of the year gives them a big bill, and they're trying to figure out why, and they come to me for help with that. So it really just depends on what's going on with them. Normally, it's something that happens to them first before they come to me, which is kind of a shame because when you're setting up your business plan, if you can also set up your legal plan, it'll make your life much easier. You won't have to worry about those things because you'll have all those issues, a lot of them anyway. You're already deal with them before anything happens. So you could set it up so that you're not going to have to keep jumping over hurdles every 2 minutes while you're trying to make money. So
It's an interesting thing you mentioned there, legal plan, when you're setting up your business plan. I'm going to put a pin on that and come back to that because that's an interesting point. Like I said, as entrepreneurs, we just think about like marketing and offers and branding,
right.
but like a legal plan, that's something I don't think I've ever really considered before. So I want to come back to that. But first, let's also get to know a little bit more about your history then. What's kind of your origin story in getting into law and being an attorney and helping solopreneurs?
So I got into law right out of I went to college and law school and started practicing. So I decided I wanted to become a lawyer during my freshman year of college because I took some con law classes, business law classes, and I said, "Hey, I like this." I started out as a computer scientist, and it was just too much math. It was, it wasn't fun, put it that way. So I decided to change to political science, which I like much better. That's how I became a lawyer, and I started doing real estate right out of the bat, off the bat. When I got out of law school, I worked for a very small firm, and they gave me all their closings. So I learned how to do purchases, sales, refis, everything, drafting contracts, everything that there is with title issues, everything there is to do with real estate law. That's how I started, and I always had the passion for entertainment. So I also started representing musicians at that time. And then that was kind of how I started out with businesses because, musicians, artists they're kind of notorious not knowing anything about business. So, you know, as an attorney, I'm always trying to help artists learn the business side of their business, whatever it is, music or artists, um, voiceover artists, actors, whatever they're doing. I try to help them learn that part of the business plus the legal side, things they need to look out for. And that's how I started. So that from there, I went on my own. Then I went to work for an insurance company, and then I've been back on my own for the past since 2004. So what, 20 years I've been back on my own. So I've been practicing for 33 years.
Wow. So the last 20 years, you've been technically growing your personal brand, your solo practice.
Correct.
What were some of the ways that you marketed yourself and you put yourself out there that attracted the most attention and got you the most clients?
That's an excellent question because I've tried everything, everything under the sun. So I had a radio show way back when, where I'd do answering the question of the day kind of thing. And that was pretty effective to get my name out. But the thing is, I've learned over time that you can get your name out there, but it might not result in business. You may not get business out of everyone may know you, but that doesn't mean that you're going to make money out of that. So it's two separate things. So you kind of have to do them at the same time. You have to get your name out there while you have strategies to make money. So you have, like you said, offers, they're big. So one of the things I did way back when they still had newspapers was I wrote a little flyer, a little mini paper flyer that was like 4 pages. And I put like 4 areas of law that I practiced. And I actually paid the newspaper to put it into the center, and and people would read it. They'd call me. So that actually resulted in clients, and I had offers, obviously, in every article. Hey, if you need a will, call me. We're running a special right now, that kind of thing. So that was effective. And I do Facebook ads or TikTok ads every once in a while. I do videos and put them up. Those work. Mostly it's building the brand so people can refer business to me. That's the biggest way that I get business, is through straight direct referrals. So that's why it's getting your name, getting people to know who you are. Then that's how you kind of make it so you can make money out of it, because people will refer you. And for my profession anyway. Well, I think it's for any profession, really. Any job. If people know who you are, then they can refer you when they're talking about whatever it is. Or even on social media, when I get that every day. Someone will say, oh, there's this issue I'm having on such and such, and they'll highlight me and say, hey, contact Robert. So it's the same thing. I'm getting referrals through social media. But
Yeah.
that's a big way that I've built my business. I have many steady clients that come to me. I also started up a membership, attorney on demand plan, which is working real well. So people pay a small amount a month and they get free, well, included legal things as part of their membership fee, like a contract review, as many phone calls or emails as they want for questions.
Interesting.
So I do many different areas of marketing. So
Yeah. No, we love it. I mean, obviously, get yourself out there, see what sticks. And as you mentioned, being in the public doesn't necessarily convert into sales. So making sure that you are publicizing your message, but you also are like optimizing your message so that people understand what you do, what you're synonymous with. And whether, you made a good point about maybe that doesn't result into sales right now, but if people know what you do and what you're synonymous with, when they do have that need, or when they hear someone they know complaining about a problem they have that your need or your service solves, they'll think of you, right? Because you
correct.
just have to be top of mind.
1,000%, because there'll be times where, you wonder if anybody knows who you are, or anyone's listening to you, or, if you're the only person in the whole world, because, hey, no one's calling me, what's
Right.
going on? And then all of a sudden it rains, or it pours, and people all come in. But, it's just because of that. That's the importance of having your name out there on a constant basis, so that then you realize, hey, people are getting my message, even though they weren't calling last month, but now all of a sudden they're calling. And it's kind of weird too. It's kind of funny weird that I've noticed in business that it comes in bunches like bananas. So like sometimes you get nothing, and then other times like right now, the last couple of weeks, everyone's trying to get things done by the end of the year. So I have been going absolutely bananas. It's been crazy, which is a good thing. But the thing that taught me was during the dry spells, not to get discouraged. Just I take a breath and actually try to catch up on some work, because the next wave is going to come in, and
Right.
usually when that happens, it's you dropped off on marketing. So like the thing that I also definitely do and try to do is, when I'm busy like now, I still market, right? Because if I just concentrate on doing the work that's here now in front of me, and I'm not marketing still, next month I'm going to be like, why am I not getting any clients? And
Right.
that's the reason why, is because you dropped off on the marketing. So it has to be consistent too.
Hey, Blueprint fam, if you're enjoying today's episode and finding my guest insights valuable, then you'll definitely want to subscribe to the Personal Brand Blueprint podcast, as we drop weekly guest interview episodes just like this one. And on that note, you obviously also see firsthand how powerful being an effective guest, like the one you're watching on this episode right now, can be at attracting qualified, interested leads directly into your sales funnel. But I know what you're thinking. You want to get into guest podcasting, but starting feels confusing and overwhelming. What equipment do you need? And how do you look and sound great? And how do you turn listeners into leads? I know this because so many of my guests had these exact problems in the past. And that is why I created the Podcast Guest Mastery Blueprint. It's a simple but powerful breakdown on everything you need to look, sound, and convert great as a podcast guest. Everything from how to set up your recording area to what equipment you need to look and sound great on camera, and what to say on podcasts to stand out, be memorable, and earn the audience's trust. And then that one key strategy to turn listeners into leads. I'm telling you, this isn't just another checklist. This is a step-by-step blueprint to make sure you look, sound, and present your best on podcasts so you can convert that attention into leads and ultimately new business. I honestly was thinking about selling this for like $97, but I'd rather give access to this guide to my personal brand blueprint podcast audience for free. So if you are ready to become a sought-after podcast guest and use it to generate leads and build your personal brand, and grab your copy of Podcast Guest Mastery Blueprint at davepoly.com/podguestblueprint. You can find the link to that in the show notes below. Again, that's davepoly.com/podguestblueprint, and start turning podcast interviews into business. Again, it's completely free for being a loyal listener, so definitely check it out. Cool? All right, let's get back to the conversation. Well, that's the tough part too about being a solopreneur is typically you are your marketing and sales team and your back of house team. So you get a bunch of new clients in. Now you have to go service those clients. But while you're
Right.
servicing clients, you don't have anyone selling.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, you need a team. You absolutely need a team.
Right. So
to be
let's
able
go
to do it.
back to what you said before about having a legal plan. So let's think about people who are maybe C-suite, they're W-2 employees, but they want to launch a personal brand. And for me, I'm someone who helps walk those people through how to design, build, and launch that personal brand. But I'm looking at it from the lens of let's put together what your offer is going to be, what your go-to marketing strategy is going to be,
Right.
and all that. But I'm really interested in hearing, okay, what else should we be thinking about from a legal perspective about when we're incorporating, or what's kind of part of that legal plan?
Yeah. So most people's business plan is how they're going to bring income in, how they're going to make money, right? So part of that plan needs how you're going to preserve your wealth too. That's the legal side of it. So you don't want people taking your money because they sue you or whatever, or you don't want to have to keep paying lawyers because you're getting cease and desist letters. So building a brand is wonderful, but the first thing that you need to do, and that should be in your legal plan, is to check to see if that brand name is available, right? Because I have this happens all the time, and in fact, I have a case that I'm working on right this second, where a health company, fitness company, went online and started a side hustle, and they're selling various videos and products, and they were using the exact same name as another company out of Texas that is in the healthcare business too, or the fitness business, not necessarily doctor healthcare, but fitness. And they sent them a cease and desist because they had the trademark, the company in Texas. So now that my clients are rebranding. So that needs to be part of your legal plan. If I'm gonna launch a brand, is that brand name, is it available, and how do I protect it? So you should trademark that right out of the gate. Trademark it so you're not going to have an issue. And if someone else starts to use your brand name, you could be the one that sent out the cease and desist, which is a much better position than getting the cease and desist, finding out, oh no, they have a trademark right in the same category of business I do. So I'm screwed. I need to do something now. I need to rebrand. So, that could be bad. Like, if a company's just starting up, it might not be that hard to rebrand. But if, like we just said, if you've been marketing for a while and you built up your brand name and people know who you are, then you have to switch the name. That's sometimes that's starting all over, and that can be devastating. So that needs to be at the top of the list of your legal plan. Trademarking, making sure the name's available. And the other thing is, like I said before, how are you going to operate? because that's going to, how you operate is going to come right down to how much taxes you're going to pay. If someone's going to sue you, if you mess up, or one of your people that you have on your team messes up, people, business, part of business is getting sued, right? Because if you cost somebody money, they're gonna want recoupment. That's what the legal system's for. It really is just recycling money. So, as one of the judges put it, you're redistributing wealth. That's what you're doing as a judge. Someone comes in, they're injured, either financially or personally, and then the court's job is to redistribute the wealth, from the person that got injured, from the person that caused the injury. So you have to look at it that way. It's that simple. So that's why you set up your system, your mechanism, your LLC, your corporation, so that you can deal with that. So it's not you personally dealing with the issues. It's your company, your entity that's dealing with those issues. And then you have much more flexibility because you could, if your company doesn't have any assets, you can fold it up. And then that's going to be the end of it all. There's going to be no wealth to redistribute at that point, right? Or your company can get insurance, and it's probably going to be relatively inexpensive to get insurance for most professions, unless you're up on a roof. That would be expensive.
Well, let's talk about
all of that's part of the legal plan. So
let's talk about that incorporation side of things too, because when is the right time for a company to, or for an individual really, to incorporate? A lot of times personal brands, solo companies start as side hobbies and they start
right.
making money, and then it starts to build up, and then they go, oh wait, I actually have a business behind me now. So
Yeah.
at what point should someone start thinking about, oh, I need to reach out to a lawyer and actually get something incorporated here? And why do they need to do it at that point?
Day one is when they need to do it. Day one, you need to set up your entity and you need to protect your brand name. Day one. Because I'm telling you what happens. People start going into business, they're sole proprietors, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, I just got this tax bill. Oh my God, someone just made a claim against me. Oh my God, someone's saying I can't use the name. And then they go look for a lawyer at that point. At that point, it's too late. Like you're deep into it. Now you're not getting out of it. Now you're paying a lawyer, probably all the money you're making in this hand, you're giving to the lawyer on this hand to defend you, because now it's you personally that you're defending, right? If it's your LLC, the LLC, like just, if you're going to you should keep minimal assets in your LLC so that if someone makes a claim, it's going to be against the LLC or your whatever your is, corporation, LLC. And then it's not going to be you personally that's paying. It's going to be your LLC. So if your LLC has, $500 in it, let's just say you have $500 in your account, then if you're operating under that LLC is the one that's going to get sued, not you personally. And then, okay, well, here's your $500, and then you fold up the LLC, and that's pretty much it. There's no more liability. So, or if it's a type of company like I have where it's personal, I can't shift my liability to an LLC like many businesses can, because I'm a professional, and professionals are not allowed to do that. Doctors, lawyers, accountants. So that I have my insurance that takes care of that, right? But that's also something that whatever business the person's going in, they need to talk to an attorney to make sure that, hey, do I need to get insurance, or can I just deal with the LLC alone? So in case something happens, right? That's part of the plan, because if someone comes in and they say that they're, let's say I'm doing bookkeeping. Someone comes in and they're a bookkeeper. They're not an accountant. So am I going to be liable personally if I mess up someone's books, or can I run it through my LLC? Right? So that's a gray area. So that may be something where I tell them, get you to an LLC and let's get E&O for you, because it'll probably be really cheap to get E&O for a bookkeeper. It's an office position. So, but that's part of the plan, right? So that's why day one, you need to explore what to do, right? And then as you grow, you're going to evolve your business because when you first start out, say you're starting out as a single member LLC, you're going to pay taxes exactly the same way as a sole proprietor does on Schedule C. It's going to look exactly the same. The only thing is you're going to have that nice umbrella over you in case anything happens. That's why you have the LLC. However, once you start to make money, you can switch the LLC to an S or a C corp. So you can tell the IRS, hey, start taxing me as an S. You send in a form. You still have your LLC, but now you don't file on Schedule C anymore. You use a different form. And as an S, you can start paying yourself a salary, a reasonable salary, and you start to save tax because then you can play with how much salary am I going to make? So I'm paying withholding on this side here versus just paying 17% or 18% in self-employment tax right off the bat. So
Yeah, can we highlight this? I know this is more of like an accounting topic, but I think this is an important one because it's something I did with my business that I hadn't known about, and it's something that I know a lot of people are advising small business owners to do about this transition from just like a general LLC into an S corp, and why you should do that, what it means for how you pay yourself, and like the benefits of it.
right, so you can so when you turn over to an S, so let's say you start making $100,000. All right, that's like if there is a magic number, that's what it is, $100,000. You're a regular LLC, so that means you're not an S, you're not a C, you're being taxed like a sole proprietor. So you're paying 18% approximately off of the net. So let's say you have $100,000 in revenue, you have $20,000 worth of expenses. So you're paying 18% off the top, which is how much? You're paying $14,400 right off the top in tax, right? And that's not including income tax. So then you have to pay your bracket also, whatever your bracket is. So let's say it's a side hustle and you're in the 30% bracket. Well, you're paying another 30% on the remainder, right? Once you're an S, you could pay yourself a reasonable salary and then you do withholding. So you pay half of the 18, you're paying 7,000, right? You're paying the whole thing, 14, but you get to deduct the other half. So in effect, you're only paying half, 7,000. And so boom, you just wiped out $7,000 in tax liability just by setting up an S. And that's just a basic way to save money because there's other mechanisms that you could set up with an S corp that you can't do as a single member normal LLC to save other money too. You could set up 401ks, you could do a whole bunch of things, retirement plans, pension plans. So you're socking money away for yourself and that's coming off. You could actually get it close to a zero tax liability with a lot of the mechanisms. But you need to be, an S or a C. And a C, what a C corporation is that means that the corporation pays tax itself. And C would get taxed based on the revenues and, the net. So if you have a zero net after all your expenses, the C's, not going to pay anything. But even if it does, it's only like a 15% amount that it's paying, the C. And then it'll pay, you'll be paying your employees and they'll be paying just as employees. They'll be paying the 7%, whatever it is, for the withholding, the Medicare, the Social Security. So if you start making a lot of money, then you can go C, and then you can, and your accountant will play around with the numbers to figure out which, but the point is you have flexibility and you did it right off the bat. You started out with your entity, your little entity when you were making no money. You had your legal protection, and then you just switched it over easily as you evolved. You didn't have to worry about jumping in. Oh, I'm making 200,000 now. So then you got to jump in. You got to go set up. You figure out if you're going to do an S or a C, and do it at that point. It's a lot more complicated when you're jumping in than it is when it's evolving with your business.
So once we have our legal plan, we start getting clients in. Let's say we're coaches or consultants and we're getting clients. One of the big aspects of that client relationship is the contract, the agreement that
Yes.
you have between them.
Yep.
And a lot of business owners, if you're not from a legal background, you don't really know, besides listing out the scope of work of what you're going to provide them and how
Mhm.
long it's going to take and all that kind of stuff. That's usually the top half, and then the bottom half is all the legal jargon to help protect you against whatever could go wrong. What are some of the
Correct.
things we should be thinking about that needs to go into these client agreements
Mhm.
that help protect us but are still fair to the client? And what are the worst case scenarios that could go wrong we should be protected by?
Another great question. That's also part of your legal plan. You need to have an agreement that you can give to the clients, right? Here's a story, something that's happening right now with a new client that just came in. Um, they are a spray foam insulation company, and some of their bills aren't getting paid. So they came to me, and I said, "Hey, Alan, when did you put the spray foam in?" A couple of them that were like, "Oh, last year," but then one of them was within 60 days. So I was like, "Hey, did you know you could file a mechanics lien for work where you put in materials into a property within 90 days?" No, I didn't know that. So we filed the lien. The three of them we had to just send a letter. One of them we filed the lien, right? But in their contract, it didn't say anything about they're allowed to collect attorney's fees or interest or costs. So we can't collect any of that stuff for the lien. Where so I just rewrote their contract for them to put that in. So now the next time that happens, they could file the lien and they could collect attorney's fees and costs because it's in their contract. So it depends on you need to know what it's important depending on your business. That's why you need to have a lawyer draft the contracts for you, because there's different, that would be for a company that does labor for real estate where you do that, right? But that's not necessarily something that you would do for a musician, right? But there's other things you put in there for musicians. Like you'd want to know if you could set up a publishing company for a musician and you collect ASCAP or BMI royalties. That's something that should be so. Like every industry is a little different, right? But the key things you want to put in make sure in the contract are jurisdiction. So you definitely want to put in there that if you have to bring a lawsuit, you want to bring it where you are, in the state you are. So you want to say, like, if you live in New York or Connecticut, like I live, you want the contract to say that Connecticut law applies to this contract. And if any disputes arise, they'll be resolved in Connecticut courts, right? Because that way, as a lot of businesses do when they're conducting business all over the internet, all over the country, and you have a client out in California and you live in Connecticut, you don't want to have to go out to California to sue that client, right? Because they're out there, so their jurisdiction is out there. So you can't sue them in Connecticut. Connecticut has no jurisdiction over a California resident, just like California has no jurisdiction over a Connecticut resident, unless that person waives and agrees to the jurisdiction. So that's why that clause is important to put in all your contracts. You know, what law is going to apply and what courts. So those are the types of things that you need in your contract. But that's why it's important when you're setting up the contract to have a lawyer give you a template or, do something specific for the business that you can just keep using over and over and over.
You alluded to a few of these earlier on in the show, but what are some of the other areas besides, company formation, contracts? You mentioned kind of copywriting and making sure that you can use the name that you've chosen for your
Trademarking.
business and
Yep.
such. What are some of the other areas that maybe are just a little bit more uncommon, but can really screw over someone who wants to grow their personal business down the line? Something crazy comes out and they're like, oh, I wish I had that in place, or I wish I had an agreement for that early on.
Well, the contracts are big. Same thing with releases. So let's just take a musician, or let's take a musician, voiceover artist, actor, anyone in the arts. They want to make sure that they're giving permission or not giving permission, whichever one that is applicable, to use the likeness. So to record their voice or take their picture, listen to the music that they're creating. So you, it's called work for hire under copyright. So like when you're getting hired to let's say make a write a song for a film, right? Are you going to keep the copyright to that, or are you going to give the copyright away to your client? So those are what I call talent releases. Those things have to be hammered down before the gig happens, because so many times I'll see artists perform, and then a dispute comes up, and it's like, well, who owns the copyright? Did you give it all away? Did you say that they can use it forever and ever and ever and in perpetuity, and you gave away all your rights? And then that's where they can take it and make you a cloned AI voice or likeness. So those releases are really important. Those are things that can make or break your business. I mean, especially like say for voiceover artists, if they give away copyrights to a certain job and they give all rights to use it however they want to, what's to prevent that client from cloning the person's voice? It's really easy to do. You go online, you put it up on like Respeecher. It's a website, cloning the voice and then just doing a whole bunch more voiceovers with your voice, with your old file that you gave them on job one. So those are, again, industry specific. So those are the kind of things that you want to make sure you're checking, that you're not giving away your rights to future work, future revenue. Like copywriters, same thing. Copywriters, they're gonna write copy for commercials. You want to make sure you own the copyright for that, so that they don't just take that and give it to all their friends and, and change it and do whatever they want with it. You want them to come through you again to write new copy.
You mentioned a buzzword there, AI, and obviously that's making its way into business
Yes.
in multiple areas, whether it's content creation. People are creating AI avatars now, and you can like sending sales videos through that. When it comes to like content that you might create and post on your website or your social content, there's kind of this, what's your take on, or what is kind of the, I guess, legal systems take on AI and its use within business, and where legality lies, being that it's like, yeah, where's AI and legal kind of and business kind of all mixing here?
Yeah, it's very much in the evolution stages right now. So like it's very much of a all over the place, wild west kind of scenario. The law is really behind the technology. So there's statutes being written right now, but there's nothing seriously that's been passed. So basically, your work can be stolen used for AI, and there's very little protection under the law right now, except for what you do personally. So that's why it's important to have their contract that's very specific, so that it prevents any AI aspect of using your work, reproducing your work. I don't know if you want me to get into generative AI and what that is all about, but generative AI is where like you go on ChatGPT and you say, send me language about the Constitution, or send me language about how to build a motor, or whatever, and then it comes up with a whole nice little neat little, or send me some the first page of a novel about romance or something like that, and it comes up with the first page, and you can say 100 pages and it'll come back with it. And what it does is it scours the internet. So it goes through billions and billions and billions of pages in an instant, and then it comes back to bring you a combination of everything that it found. So, like say, hey, send me a picture of a dog. That's what you put in ChatGPT. It's gonna scour the internet, and it's gonna come up with a picture of a dog that it created based on pictures of all the dogs that it finds on the internet. That's generative. So it's not using one particular person's work. It's using everybody's work. So that's where the real legal issue is. If ChatGPT just took one person's work and pulled it back and gave it to you and you used it, that would still be plagiarism, right? That's still copyright infringement. It's not, that's still illegal. Where the issue comes up is when it's generative and it combines all the work that's out there on the internet. So there's, a little piece of this person, this person, this person, this person. So number one, how do you even prove that ChatGPT used your work? Number two, if you could prove it, what do you do? Like, what's your remedy? Because there's a whole bunch of other people's work that was used to generate the new content. So that's the legal technical issue right now. It's the concerning generative AI.
Right.
Even with AI where they'll clone your voice, those are issues too. Because like I said, if you gave away your rights, then the question is, are they allowed to use your files to create something new? And I think the answer to that question right now is no. That's still going to be considered illegal use of likeness, copyright infringement, something. It's more
I would
now
hope that if you have a contract, you gave away your rights to use your voice for a specific project, that I would hope that would mean that remains the boundaries of how you can use that file, that voice.
correct. Hopefully,
Yeah.
because the contract could be a lot more broad, where it just
Right.
says we can do whatever we want for anything in perpetuity, which a lot of them say. So, and then it's like, well, it says we can do whatever we want, so why can't we use your file to clone your voice? Because it's a new technology, so why can't we do that? And those arguments are happening right now as we speak. Actually, there's cases in court over what I just said. Are you allowed to? What's the scope of an old file? Are you allowed to clone? So that's why it's important in new contracts now that it really, like you said, defines the clear scope and says you can't use it to clone the voice. It's got to be specific now, so that you have a clear remedy if it did happen. So most of the cases are concerned older projects, not, or new ones where they did put it in the contract, and those are issues.
I want to touch on quickly, because when you own your own business and you own your own product, a lot of times what ends up coming up is this concept of like trademarking certain procedures or intellectual property,
Yep.
so that other people can't steal your process and whatnot. It's gotten to a point in the like digital marketing space where everyone pretty much has a variation of like the same thing, and they call it something different. They kind of just
Right.
paint it a different color. So what should we know about what is like trademarkable and what needs to be in place or part of our procedure to make it worthy of something that someone else can't steal? And where's kind of like more so just an open source idea that it's like, I don't think we can really go to a court case about this.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because this is a question I get a lot. So, like with teachers, somebody that teaches a particular course, how do I prevent people from just doing the same thing I'm doing? So you got, first of all, trademark means that you're taking a name or a logo, and that's what you're protecting. So trademark, if you give your course a name, that's where trademark can help. So they can't use the same name. Copyright also will help you. So if you take the materials that you're teaching, put it in writing, you can copyright that. So then people are not going to be able to use those same materials, right? Same thing with a process. So if you have some type of process that you put in a manual, you can copyright that, and that gives it some protection. If it gets a little deeper, then that would be patent. You have to patent the idea. So if it's a sophisticated manufacturing process or something like that, that would take the next step to patent. And patents cost a lot more than trademark and copyright. It takes a lot longer. It's a lot more involved. So it would have to be something worth patenting. I don't know if that's how you say that, but have to be worth a patent, worth the money to do it. Like you come up with a new invention, that would definitely be worth it. Or you come up with a new technique that no one else has thought of, and it's technical. So it involves not just words, right? If it was just words, I would put it down in a manual and copyright it, and that's really the most you can do to protect it. But there are some ideas that are open source. There's like techniques for sales. That those are general ideas that everyone uses, and then like you said, everyone has their own little twist on how they do it, and there's nothing really you can do unless you have a unique twist. You can copyright that, right? You can put that in a manual and copyright that. That's so that twist is known for you. So again, something you should speak to an attorney about, somebody that does intellectual property, because there may not be anything you can do, but there may be something that you can do. So it's worth exploring for sure.
Well, if someone wanted to speak to you about some of these items and things that we talked about today, where can they get to learn a little bit more about you, and how can they get a hold of you?
Best place is my legal site, Rob Sig, RobScigesq.com.
Perfect. Definitely go check that out. And that is all for today's episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. A big thank you to Rob for coming on and walking us through some very critical and important legal needs that we need to know as personal branders to avoid some headaches and financial issues down the line. So if you are interested in launching, growing, and monetizing your personal brand, make sure to subscribe to the Personal Brand Blueprint podcast. Check out me, Dave Polykoff, on LinkedIn, as well as Rob. And go to davepolykoff.com to learn more about my one-on-one consulting services to help you design, build, launch, and grow your personal brand. Thank you again, and see you on the next episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. Today, we learned about my guest's origin story, unique methods, and credibility. If you want to see me break down how today's guest can use those tools within the Personal Brand Blueprint strategy to attract, convince, and convert new qualified leads so you can do the same for your business, then check out this episode here. Or if you want to continue to hear more incredible personal branding origin stories and learn more valuable personal branding skills from my awesome guests, then check out the full playlist of interviews here.